Hello, everyone. Welcome back to week number 5 of Scratch for Beginners. And
Hello, everyone.
well done, you made it. This is going to be our last lesson this week. Our last live lesson. Anyway, we've got other things planned, but this was probably a good spot just to kind of take a breath and kind of look back at what we've done the last few weeks. We want to finish off the challenges that we started last week, but this week we'll give you 6 new challenges. I'm going to talk you through them, but then that's it. You guys have done it. But I'm so pleased that you've managed to make it this far. So if you've followed us for the last 5 weeks, you've had me kind of screaming at you the last few weeks. I really appreciate your patience and your involvement, and for those guys who have kind of got on and shared your projects with us, thank you so much. You're going to have the same opportunity to do that this week. We're going to leave the Code Studio open, and you guys can carry on sharing your projects with us and all of that stuff, and we're going to come back with even more kind of learning to do during lockdown. But just to remind you who I am, I'm Robert Fraser. I volunteer here for Highland Tech Hub to do some of these virtual live broadcast lessons. I'm joined, as always, by Julie, our professional coder who keeps me right. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Rob. Hi, everyone. Lovely to see you all. So yes, well, I'm a programmer, but I'm also a STEM ambassador, Code Club volunteer, and yeah, we've done quite a lot of work with schools, and yeah, working now with CodeInverness. So good to be here.
Yeah, great. And you've been working hard on remixing some of these projects that we've been doing last week. I was enjoying your French Géry and your German disco music. It had a real European feel, your remixes. I don't know what you've been up to the last week, but you've obviously been maybe missing the Eurovision Song Contest or something. I'm not sure. But no, it's great. It's great to see that. And in the background, we have Daryl. When Daryl speaks, usually I'll do something like this, where I'm going to go, oh yeah, So don't worry if I start doing that. I'm not speaking to myself. I am speaking to the voice in my head, but it's a real person, hopefully most of the time, in Daryl. So that's us. We are Highland Tech Hub, but we broadcast all over the world. We've had people come in and do stuff from South Africa and Jamaica and all different places. Glasgow, as far away as Glasgow, can you believe? So if you're still joining us from Glasgow, hello and welcome back this week. But let's crack on. I'm going to do a little bit of a recap of what we've done the last few weeks, and then I'm just going to jump straight into the challenges. So, you know, I'm always kind of starting off the lessons by saying, should your computers be open? Should they be closed? Should you have some paper in front of you? Well, this week, you just keep those computers in front of you, because we're going to dive straight in to the challenges once I've done a little bit of a review. So you guys know this already. Week 1, and the videos on the YouTube site, if you need to kind of look over it again. But we did a lot in week 1 where we looked at different events where you would hook your code into. We looked at the costumes, but we also looked at making sure that the code executes from top to bottom. And by executes, I simply mean that it runs each line top to bottom as if you would read a page of writing. You would read hopefully from the top to the bottom, and the computer does it exactly the same way. We did position and movement. That was fun, week 2, where we looked at the X and Y coordinates. We talked about the left-hand coordinate rule. We did also loops and sensing. I mean, when you look back at everything we've done a lot of stuff. So if you never did Scratch before when you started this, hopefully you're almost a Scratch expert by now. You're probably as good as I am, certainly. Week 3, we went back a little bit and we concentrated on loops and if statements. So a really fundamental part of programming is kind of thinking of different cases or different scenarios that might happen, and then programming for each scenario. So we looked at some of those conditions and loops and how we would work with them. And then I put together the 12 challenges of Hercules, from the Greek Roman mythology.
Herculean.
What's that, Julie?
I certainly were Herculean.
Herculean, yes. A good play on a good little bit of mythological punnage going on there. So Herculean challenges. I mean, I love the Greek mythology. So I mean, even if you guys weren't particularly interested in the challenges, even if it got you to Google, a bit of the Greek mythology, I think our job was done there. So this week is part 2. Basically, there was 10 challenges that Hercules was given, but the guy who gave him the challenges wasn't convinced on 2 of them that he did them himself. So he ended up with 12 challenges. So we did 6 last week, and we're going to do 6 again this week. So, Julie, are you ready to kind of see what the challenges are this week? I mean, you had fun with the ones last week, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah. Well,
still got 2 to do from the last.
You haven't done them all. That's okay.
So if any of you guys are still working on them, you've got a chance to overtake me because I'm only on challenge 4. So if you're still working on them, you can get in there before me. So.
The number 1 spot is up for grabs. I mean, I don't know where I'm going to place on the ranking. They are my challenges at the end of the day, although some of them you're probably not the most original. But so let's have a look and see what we've got for this week in terms of the challenges. Now you can find the challenges all on our studio. So I'm going to go to the CodeInverness studio. The link is here. This is where everything is. And if you've had other projects or things that you want to share with us, please just share them with the studio. It's open. As you can see, anyone can add their projects on there. And I love having a look at what you guys do, especially Julie and her awesome remixes. I think I'm just going to show everyone one of them, which is Jerry and Terry having a conversation in French. But I don't know if you guys will be able to hear this, but what Julie did was she created a text-to-speech and bonjour, Terry.
Yeah, I can't hear it.
I'm not sure if you guys can hear that. Yeah.
Can't hear it, but
I highly recommend, if you don't do any of the challenges, guys, go to the studio, have a look at Julie's remix, because I think it's excellent, and it will help you with your pronunciation of Jerry, which is also very good. So we start this week on challenge number 7, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through each challenge, what you have to do for each one, and then at that point you guys can start the challenges and start the remixing and progress at your own pace. But then at the end, I'm going to take just a short break. I'm going to go back to this challenge 7, and then I'm going to show you how I would do it. So if you're not sure, you can obviously follow along with me. But if you guys are confident now, which hopefully you will be, then I've got the challenges just in the instruction box here, so you can just remember when you go see inside. I don't have the box because obviously I made the projects, but you guys should, in this corner here, just up beside the see inside, you should see a remix button. You just hit that button, you can rename the challenge to anything you want, and then obviously you can share it back with us. So the first one is the Cretan bull, and you guys have probably figured out by now, Hercules, he either goes and gets something or he ends up capturing something. That all of his challenges involves him having to go and kind of defeat someone or get a character. In this scenario, it was the Cretan bull, which is, the bull from Crete, rather than a bull that was a particularly nasty bull. So this is a bull from the island of Crete in Greece. He had to go and capture it. Now, I couldn't find that, unfortunately, Julie. There was no bull sprite, so I had to go for a bat. A bat and a bull, kind of the same?
Yeah.
Maybe.
All right.
maybe.
Similar, yeah.
So the challenges in this one is to, well, you click the green flag and you'll see that Jerry can actually move around okay, and if he touches any of the walls, you can see there you actually, I'll maybe increase the size, you lose a life. So it's a little bit like those, I mean, you guys will all be too young, but do you ever remember going to like a gala or something, Julie, where you had those wire things where you had the loop, and you had to try and get it was about your hand coordination, getting all the way to the end through all the loops without your hand shaking.
A bit like Operation, the game Operation, isn't it?
Very similar idea. Where you close the circuit when the two pieces of the metal touch, and it's all about your kind of hand-eye coordination, having a steady hand. So that's what you have to do here. So the game generally works. I've kind of programmed in the movement, and like I say, I've programmed in the lives as well. So if he touches the wall 3 times, the lives turn to 0 and the game stops. But the challenge here, I'll just reset it so you can see, hopefully, is that you've got these coins. They're kind of, I think it's the ball sprite, but they're nice and gold, so I'm calling them coins. The challenge here is to add more coins to the game. And make sure that as you collect those coins, a little bit like Pac-Man going around the maze, that you're able to increase the score. And then when you get eventually to the bat, you change the backdrop as well. So there might be a little bit of testing in this one, but that's the main challenge: is add more coins, make sure that the score increases when you collect a coin, and also when you get to the end in the bat, that you can kind of create an end of game scenario. So that's that challenge. Is that clear?
So is that just a normal scratch? Is it just a normal scratch background you've got there? I've not seen that one before. But...
No, this one actually I made it myself. You know.
Right.
Hold your applause. I know it's a masterful piece of artwork. No, what I did, very simple. I created a new empty backdrop sprite, and I simply drew the lines. Using the Shift key on the keyboard, you can create straight lines or lines at a specific angle, and then I was able just to kind of build it up, and I did it even by hand. This last column here is a little bit longer, but I did that all by just by my hand and eye coordination. So I was quite pleased with it. Thank you. So let's go back to the studio to find out what challenge number 8 was. So challenge 8 is the unicorn challenge. So this one, I've given you a backdrop of a meadow with a unicorn in it, and the idea here is that you click the unicorn to get points, and there's a nice little magical sound as you click the unicorn as well, and you can see there the score increases. So that's kind of a basic game. You could actually tell there, I'm going to add another challenge, because you could see the score was actually 18 when we start. So you need to reset the score when green flag is clicked, because you don't want to accumulate the score of previous player. So you need to actually reset the score. I'm going to add that in as a challenge. I just noticed that didn't work. You need to stop the game when you get to a certain number of points, because at the moment, although it's kind of hard sometimes to get the unicorn, you can see that I'm getting the score and it's just increasing. There's no way to end the game. So we need to think about how many points do you need to get. You can end the game. You can do other things as well, like increase the speed of the unicorn maybe moving around the screen. But one challenge that I want you guys to think about is also animating the unicorn when it's clicked, because at the moment when I click on it, nothing really happens. And I think, well, apart from the sound that you guys probably can't hear unless you actually play the game, I want to make that a little bit more interactive. So I think pretty straightforward, those challenges on that one, Julie?
Yeah, I think so. Just remembering to reset the score. Yeah, daughter loves this one. She loves unicorns, so she's very excited when she saw that.
Who doesn't love unicorns, though? You know, everyone loves unicorns. It's a national animal of Scotland, you know. So, you know, you can't beat a unicorn. There was a story that the legend of unicorns actually started with narwhals. Do you know about that? It just popped into my head.
No.
Well, you know how narwhals have the long single kind of horn in their, on their heads. They're quite large animals that live in the sea generally, guys, if you haven't heard of a narwhal. But effectively, the story goes that it was hundreds of years ago where people found this horn on the beach, and they were like, well, where's this come from? And that's kind of how the legend of unicorns actually started. I'm not sure if I'm hearing you typing away there, if you're Googling that while you're fact checking me, possibly, Julie, while I'm talking, but that's no, if you find out the true story, then maybe we'll have time at the end to talk about it. But that's what I was always told, is how the legend of unicorns started. And because it's originated in Scotland, actually it became the Scottish national animal. So I think we're one of the only countries, if not the only country, to have a national animal which is mythological. I don't want to say that it's not a real animal, but it's certainly a mythological animal. So you guys can write in and tell us what the difference is there. So that's challenge number 8. Let's move on and see what challenge number 9 was involved. And these all challenges hopefully just kind of build. If you're worried about the challenges or you're not too confident, I've actually added some comments within the code so that you'll see there if you go inside, and I'll show you once I start to go through this. Same as last week, I added some of those little post-it notes to different areas of the code. So keep an eye out for those, and I encourage you guys just to dive in and have a go. So this one I really kind of I diverted from the theme here. Hercules was challenged to get the girdle of the Amazon queen. I think in the mythology, the Amazon queen actually agreed to give Hercules the girdle, but then there was somebody who was kind of spreading a rumor that Hercules was quite a bad guy, so he ended up having to fight his way out of the situation. But I've taken a real liberty here. I've kind of gone for a jungle type theme, but instead of a girdle, I've gone for a planet. And Jerry didn't really work in this scenario either, so I've gone for Pico, the character Pico, as well as the main sprite. But if you guys click the flag, you're able to move Pico around, and his costume changes. It's not the best animation in terms of moving him around, but he's followed by the parrot. And again, you can get the coins, but nothing happens when I touch the coins. But you can see here, if the parrot catches Pico, then the game is ended. So what I want you guys here to do is when you do touch the coin, I want it to disappear. I want there to be a score so that effectively we're building on some of the things that we've done in the previous challenges. So you get the coin, it should be then hidden. You want to keep a track of how many coins Pico collects, and then you want to think about what happens when Pico either collects enough coins or he gets caught by the parrot. And again, if you look inside, and I'll just show you this quickly, if you look inside the project, I have kind of indicated the blocks and put in what's called pseudocode. And pseudocode is it's a posh term that we use in programming, where it's not quite code, but it's not quite. it's kind of a mixture of English and code, where you kind of write down in English instructions that hopefully everyone would understand, but then it makes it slightly easier to program, because you've already kind of done that logical thinking about the order and things that things should be. So I've kind of done a little bit of pseudocode here for you to help you to think about how to build up that if statement. So that's a key piece of the puzzle when doing challenge number 9. Do you want to say anything more about pseudocode there, Julie? You're probably used to using that when you're doing your programming.
Just yeah, it's pretty much what you were saying. So yeah, it's not code, but it's like right, wanting to do the steps, wanting to do. So yeah, it's really useful actually. Just thinking it through before you actually put the code in. So yeah, it's crucial. Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah,
I use that a lot.
I use that too. It's not always a natural way, and certainly when you're beginning to program, you don't always think in terms of kind of logical instructions. So just writing it down first in the structure of what it might look like really kind of helps when you actually come to doing the programming. You're kind of separating out the two tasks, and I think everyone has slightly different ways of doing it, guys. If you're happy enough to go straight into the code, just go straight for it. But that's just a little bit of a hint for us, and certainly when you get to making more complex programs, pseudocode becomes quite important. Okay, challenge number 10 was to capture the cattle of Geryon. Now, again, there was no cattle sprite, so I went for a bear sprite. And the way that you capture this particular bear is by talking to him. Hercules kind of has, not many modes. He's very strong. He's very physical. But in this scenario, I thought it would be good to kind of test our linguistic skills. It doesn't have to be in French like what Julie did previously with Jerry and Terry, but it does have to have a little bit of an element of conversation. Now this one's might be a little bit tricky for you guys. This is a real challenge. If we look inside, you can see there's a whole new variable here that we haven't talked about previously. So this is going to be bonus points for anyone really who can get their heads around this quite quickly and generate a bit of a conversation. But you see here, I'm just going to quickly run this through just to give you a little bit of a hint, is that we're using something called the answer. And the answer block or element here, excuse me, is related to this ask block. So this is effectively, it's another type of variable that stores the answer that we put on this previous question. So you can probably tell just even by looking at this code how it works. But this is a little bit tricky. So I'll be interested to see how you guys get on with that one. And you could probably make this a little bit clever by introducing a loop, but that's even more advanced. So at this point, I was just wanting to kind of break down some of these elements and give you guys a chance to work on them. But I'll show you what I would do with that later. Let's go back again to the studio and look at challenge number 11. 11 is to take the golden apples of the Hesperides. Again, my Greek is not great, but I do have apple sprouts, you'll be pleased to know this time. So this is kind of a little bit more, I want to use the word realistic, but it's a little bit more accurate to the legend, let's say. So we've got Jerry here, but Jerry doesn't do anything. I'm hitting the arrow keys, he's not moving, and the apples are falling from everywhere. They're falling from the sky. So if you think back, or even if you want to look back at what we did with the tacos. So I don't know why it's always food that's falling from the sky, but hey, let's just go with it. If you look back at the taco challenge, then you'll see possibly a solution to how to manage Jerry's movement. But we want him to move along the ground left to right. We don't want him to be able to kind of jump up in this game. You'll see also that the apples are being left very messy on the ground at the bottom. So we want in this game, we want Jerry to be able to avoid the apple. So we need to add lives in the same way that we did in the maze game. So you see here, we're building up different elements from different games. We're reusing different things, and you'll find this a lot when it comes to game mechanics, as we call them. All effectively we're doing is we're remixing different gameplay elements from different games and trying to get an interesting combination. So in this combination, we want Jerry to dodge the apples. We want him to have a certain number of lives and the game to be over when he gets hit by an apple, or a certain number of apples. 3 lives.
He's gonna have to move fast.
Yeah, you've got a couple of options there. You can either make him move really fast, which I think could be fun, or you might want to think about slowing down. I mean, it's got to be an orchard that he's in. There's so many apples that fall from the sky in this one. It could be pretty difficult game, but I'll leave you guys to think about how you want to solve that problem. And the last challenge number 12 of the bonus challenges, is a puppy challenge. So Cerberus, you need to capture Cerberus, and Cerberus in Greek mythology was a 3-headed dog that guarded the underworld. In our scenario, it's a little bit more or a little bit less of a scary dog that we've got that's guarding the underworld, and to represent the underworld, which you guys probably wouldn't appreciate at all. I've got a school in the background, but everyone's probably desperate to get back to school. You know, the thought of going to school was probably not in everyone's top things to do, but given what we've gone through the last 3 months, I'm sure you guys would love to be going back to school. So the Cerberus dog is guarding the school. The way that we win this game is by feeding the Cerberus donuts. And you can see here that the donut follows my mouse pointer around. So we can actually take the mouse, we can take the donut, and we can take it to Cerberus. You can see that it animates once, but it doesn't animate again. So we want to think about a couple of things here. We need a scenario where the puppy or Cerberus moves around the screen automatically, making it maybe a little bit tricky for you to feed him the donuts. He doesn't. Let's imagine that it's a puppy that doesn't particularly like donuts. And for those of you at home, do not feed your puppy donuts, please. They're not. It's not recommended at all. So let's just assume that Cerberus doesn't want to eat the donuts, which is a sensible decision. We want him to avoid the donuts, and we want to try and animate him when he's eating the donuts. You can probably tell, Julie, by this point, I was kind of running out of ideas for games to build. So I think, to be fair to everyone at home who's doing this, they can remix this one as much as they want. They could maybe try and develop this into a proper game. But it gives you a couple. Yeah, absolutely. Create your own version. I think with this one, it was just interesting to add in that kind of mouse follow movement, which isn't something that we've kind of previously done before. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of play with that element, and you'll see inside in the code that that's actually quite a simple thing to do, apart from it's a little bit buggy because when you stay in the same spot, the donut tends to still move. So that certainly could be improved as well. Okay, so we're basically halfway through the lesson, and I've explained to you what the challenges are. Shall we have a go and see if we can solve some of these problems, Julie?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll open a project up on my screen as well.
Yeah, and see if you come up with different solutions than I do. So let's have a look. So remember, you need to see inside, and you can see here that I've posted some notes to help you. So for the first challenge, for the Cretan bowl, because it's from Crete. This is quite an interesting loop that I've got here. I just want to kind of explain this, guys. What I've done is I've added two conditions. So you can see here, slightly unusual in his the movement is usually if a certain key has been pressed, then we move in that direction. However many steps, that you guys have been used to that. We've done that with a lot of games. But you can see here, I've actually added what's called an operator. And the operator allows us to check for more than one thing. So in this scenario, I'm checking if the down arrow key has been pressed and he's not touching the black color. So you see here, when I made up the background sprite, I used the color black to make the walls. So if he's pressing the key and he's not touching the walls, then he can move. So that's quite clever, and you can build that up to add in as many conditions as you want to check at the same time. And really there, you're starting to build quite complex logic in terms of what your game should be doing. Don't worry about it too much, because I've programmed this in for Jerry for the movement, but I just wanted to kind of explain that to you guys in case that's something that you want to do yourself for your own games. So in this scenario, we want to make more balls. Balls, I'm going to call them coins because they're more coins than balls, but we need to make more coins. So here we have, if it's touching Jerry, then hide, and when green flag clicked, show. So that's absolutely fine. What I'm actually going to do, I'm quite happy with this code. There's a couple of different ways that we can do it. I'm going to do it probably the simplest way. It might not be the best way, but the simplest way would be to duplicate, to create duplicate coins. Let's go for, I'm maybe going to go for half a dozen coins. That's absolutely fine. And then move the coins into certain positions. I want to make it tricky for the player. So I'm going to move one here so that they have to go through this hole and then down before going back up. I'm actually going to put one over here as well. Although this part of the maze doesn't lead anywhere, it just gives the player more opportunity to die effectively. So I'm going to be really tricky. Move this one over here again so that they have to kind of go across the maze even when it doesn't benefit them for what they're actually doing. We put another one here, and I'll put one, I think I'll just put one here as well. So you guys can obviously build the level up as you want. I've been extra tricky in terms of where I've placed the coins. But that's quite a simple way to do it. Another way to do it might be to create a clone. We're going to talk maybe about clones in another challenge. I'm sure it's something that we'll come back to when we do more Scratch lessons. But in this scenario, I think it's quite simple, just to kind of build up the level using the duplicate for your coins. But what we want to do, I'm going to just enlarge this so we can preview it. I'm start the game, and I'm going to go, and you can see there, Jerry, when he gets the coin, I accidentally hit the bottom there. When he gets the coin, it disappears, but nothing happens in our score. You see, the score doesn't actually change. So we need to think about that. How are we going to do the score? So we have a variable, and if you look in the backdrop, this is where, and you'll figure this out from watching my lesson last week, I like to put the variables or the code that kind of applies to all of my sprites in the backdrop. I think it's quite a tidy place to put it than to put it against an individual sprite. So if you click on the backdrop, you'll actually see here that we have a variable score, it's set to 0, and we have a variable lives that's set to 3 when the game starts. If the lives equal 0, then it's game over. And Jerry loses a life if he touches the black color of the walls. He's hidden. He goes back to the start of the level. Wait 1 second, then he shows them again, and it changes the lives by -1. But we need to increase the score by +1 when he gets a coin. So let's look at our coins, and you can see here I've given a hint. If touching Jerry, then hide. Would this be a good place to add a score? I think it would, because you think about it, when Jerry touches the coin, it's going to disappear from the game, and then that's probably a good point to increase our score variable. So we go to the variables orange code block, and we're going to change, and I'm going to drag it in because it says here change lives by 1. But you notice this little arrow beside the lives, we can actually change the variable that we're accessing. So I'm going to change that to score. So change score by 1. And by doing the duplicate method rather than the clone method, so this is a disadvantage rather than an advantage, it means that we're going to have to do that for all of our coins that we've made. So this is probably a good example of where using clone would allow you to change the code once rather than changing it 6 times. But that's just something to think about. When you become more experienced in doing different types of games, you'll know straight away before you start building something probably what the best method to do is. Or sometimes you'll figure it out after you've done something.
Try and complete it one ball, and then just copy the completed code into each of the other balls.
Yes, that's probably a better way to do it as well. You guys all come up with your own techniques, but I'll just show you quickly what Julie's talking about there. So I'm going to delete the code here from this coin number 6, and say for the first coin, I've got the code the way that I like it. You can actually, I think you can click and drag the whole thing, can't you? And if you drag it and see when it shakes there like that, you drop it on, and it actually creates a whole copy of that code. So that's kind of a quick way of transferring code from that you've got in one sprite and duplicating it onto a different sprite. But quite often, Julie, I don't know about you, but when I'm doing programming, sometimes I'm not sure what the best method to do is. I end up doing something like this, where I duplicate the same thing 6 times, and then I go back later and I kind of improve it after the fact, once I know exactly what I'm doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's tricky when it's absolutely finished, because you probably will always go back and change things. So pros and cons. So.
I think it's just one of those things that experience as you do it, you guys will get better at it. So let's just test this one. I'm hitting the green flag. You can see all of my coins are showing up. When I capture a coin, you can now see the score in the bottom right hand corner, and it changes as well as the lives change as well. So there you go. Oh, see, I've been too hard on myself. I made this game too hard even for testing myself, but it's quite good fun. I like this one. This is quite. Oh, there you go. I didn't even manage to finish my own game, but that's not the point. The point is that you can see that the score is changing. Now, I have here, if on the backdrop, I've got if lives equals 0, then broadcast game over and stop all. So you'll notice if you play test the game, that when you get down to 0 lives, you can't move Jerry anymore. So that's absolutely fine. That's what that stop all does. But this broadcast game over, it doesn't do anything. I'm broadcasting it out there for all of the sprites, but I'm not actually affecting any change within the game. And the last challenge here is to change the backdrop when you get to the bat. So you can broadcast the game over, you can make a change to the game there. But also we need to broadcast something when we get to the bat as well. So let's just build this up. I'm going to do when the green flag is clicked forever, because you don't know at what point Jerry's going to get to the bat. If the bat is touching Jerry, then we're going to broadcast another event, which is message Jerry wins. So we've got two events now. We've built up a Jerry's wins event when he gets to the bat, and we've got a game over when Jerry runs out of lives. And what we want to do is we're going to go to the backdrops here, and we're going to change the backdrop depending on which of those scenarios happen. So whether we receive the game over or we receive the Jerry wins. So let's choose a backdrop. So let's think about, game over, we'll go for the Arctic, nice and cold. And for, let's say for Jerry wins, where should we take Jerry if he wins? Where would be a good reward for Jerry? Well, let's take him back to the Jurassic.
Sure.
Yeah, well, we can imagine Jurassic. This is a Jurassic.
Oh, yeah.
This is where the dinosaurs like to hang out. Although Jerry does look a bit small in this scenario. So we've got the broadcasting messages. We just need to think now about the logic of when these things are going to happen. So right at the start of the game, we're using this backdrop to kind of set some of the variables, kind of do that initial setup on our game. So let's think about what backdrop do we want. We need to go to the looks block, and we need to switch the backdrop to the backdrop 1, which is the maze that I've had. So let's click the green flag. So we always want to start in the maze, and we want Jerry to be here. So when the green flag is clicked, we go to the maze and we set the score to 0, lives to 3. That's absolutely fine. So we're still in the backdrop sprite, and when I receive game over and when I receive Jerry wins, I want to change the backdrop. So let's go to the looks, and we can say when I receive game over, go to Arctic. When I receive Jerry wins, switch backdrop to Jurassic. So it's as simple as that, really. Because we've got those broadcast events that happen in certain conditions, we can easily change the backdrop depending on those scenarios. I want to actually do something when he switched to the backdrop. I would actually want Jerry to kind of move around. So you could actually say here, when Jerry receives the game over, you might want to position him somewhere else in the screen, because you see there in the Jurassic, he can quite easily be lost because he's a bit smaller. You can actually move him to a certain position on the screen. I think I'll move him to like somewhere around the middle, so -20 on the X and 0 on the Y. But anyway, you guys can play around with that. The point was to change it on the backdrops. I'm just going to move on because I realize that we're already 3/4 of the way through. I don't know if I'm just having too much fun today. So I'm just going to move on to challenge number 8. I don't know, did you come up with anything different there? Did you use a clone on that one, Julie?
Yeah, no, yeah, could do that. Done maze games before, and I did things like slime down the side of the maze, so that if you're touching coloured slime, then you die, and things like that. And you can add in extra things if you want to make it more complicated.
That's a really good point, actually. So the coins are bonuses, but you can actually create obstacles as well, and kind of add a little bit more. Right? Yeah. No, rather than just touching the wall, loses a life. Assume that the walls are electrocuted. You can actually add barriers or physical objects. So the horses of Diomedes. Reset the score when the green flag is clicked and stop the game when you get to a certain number of points. Let's have a look. So again, I've got little tips in the game here. So hopefully that'll help to guide you through. So when the sprite is clicked, we play the magic spell sound and we increase the score by 1. But you want to stop the game when you get to a certain number of points. Let's just say when you get to 5 points, we want the game to stop. So here, I've got, again, a little bit of pseudocode. So I'm going to do an operator here. If, and I'm going to put this, go to variables, if score equals 5, then I'm going to stop all. I'm probably adding a broadcast message there as well. I'm going to broadcast game over, you win, you win. And think about maybe things to add into there. As you can see, the score is actually is increasing all the time. This isn't going to work because we're never going to get to 5 because we're already at 17. We need a way to reset the score. So I'm going to do that. I like to always start my games on the green flag clicked. I think that makes the most sense. So when the green flag is clicked, I want to set my variable, which is going to be score, to 0. And that way, when I get to the 5, I'll be able to broadcast the you win scenario. And the other thing was to animate the unicorn. So I've got here, try a repeat loop to change the costume. I'm going to quickly do this to show you guys. I'm going to try a repeat loop, and I'm going to go for a next costume. And if you look at the costumes of the unicorn, I've got costumes and make it look like it's running. So I'm going to just repeat this 4 times. That'll hopefully get us back to the start and make it look like it runs a little bit, but I need to just add in a little bit of a weight as well, so that it does, because if we didn't add in the weight, it would just flip through all the costumes and it would probably go too fast to see. So I click the green flag, the score resets to 0. That's great. It still adds in 1. And you can see it kind of looks like a little bit like it runs every time you click on it now. Again, it's a simple effect. And see there, as soon as I get to 5, the game stops, because if you check backdrops, that's absolutely fine. When score equals 5, then broadcast you win and stop all. Now we're doing nothing with that broadcast you win. I'm not going to be able to have time to show you that, but I think what I just did in the last lesson with the Cretan bool, it's fairly simple to change a backdrop. And I think for me, probably the most effective way to kind of end a game is to change the backdrop. It's the most obvious thing that you can do. Okay, we're going to move on to number 10. No, number 9 even. I don't know where the time's flying today. Don't know, is it just because I'm enjoying myself a little bit more? I don't know what's going on. Or maybe I'm just a bit slow today, I'm not sure. So in this scenario, we want to click the green flag to start, which is always the way. The parrot's going to chase us around the screen. generate a new coin at random points, broadcast the you win when you get to 5 coins, broadcast parrot wins if you get caught, and then think about what happens in each case. So let's have a look at this. We've already got the movement is absolutely fine for Pico. So the ball, let's have a see. When Pico touches the coin, again, I haven't changed the name from ball, I've changed it to coin. I think it's much better. Increase the coin variable by 1, hide the coin, wait X number of seconds, whatever number of seconds you think is most appropriate, and then go to a new random position. So actually, I'm gonna change this a little bit more than that, because I think a better thing to do, rather than the coin always starting in the bottom right-hand corner, let's say when the green flag is clicked, it goes to a random position to start with, then we show it, and then if touching Pico, increase the coin variable by 1, that's easy enough, we know how to do that, change coins by 1. Hide the coin, we know how to do that. We go to the loops and we select hide. Wait a certain number of seconds. I think in this instance, 1 second will be absolutely fine. And then go to a new random position. There is something missing from this, which is it will never show again. So it shows right when we click the green flag, but it hides, but it never shows again. So we need to actually add a little bit to our pseudocode, is show the coin again. And here, if I click show, let's see if that works now. And you see there, it appears, I think that's better for it to start in a random position. And then we can go, you see, there you go. It's quite easy to dodge the parrot as well. But I've got as many coins as I want here. Again, you know, it's got a certain amount of fun gameplay element in it. There you go. You can actually go through the parrot, but we won't worry about that too much. So when broadcast you win when you get to 5 coins. So we've got the logic there in terms of we're changing the coins by 1. You see here, it doesn't appear on the screen and we can't actually see it. But if you go to the backdrops again, then you'll see something that looks a little bit similar to what we've done in the previous games, which is it's already here in a forever loop. If you want to be able to see the variable, there's a little tick box to the left of the variables that you can click on there, and you can actually move this around depending on where it is, depending on your game. It might make more sense for it to be in a different part of the screen. By default, it always goes in the top left-hand corner. But for some games, you don't always want the player to know what the score is. So for this one, I've just unticked it. It doesn't mean that we're losing that variable. That variable still exists, but it's in the background. It's just hidden away. And there's absolutely a lot of reasons sometimes why you want to hide things like that from the player. It's not that you don't want them to know, it gives them something less to think about. So in some games, you wouldn't actually tell them how many coins they've got or how many lives they use, possibly until they get to the end of the level. And you guys can think about the games that you play where it doesn't always give you all of the information straight away while you're playing. But to do this, it's exactly the same as we've done before. If coins equal 5, then we're going to broadcast the message, you win. And you can see here, I mean, although the games are different in terms of the gameplay or the mechanics, you see here that we're doing a lot of the same code over and over again. And hopefully this is helping to build your understanding of it. If we go to the parrot, if he touches Pico, then he stops all, which ends the game. But if you look at my note here, we need to broadcast a parrot wins message when it happens here. Parrot wins, and then we can go to the backdrop again, and we can access those events. When I receive parrot wins, I'm going to do certain bit of code, or when I receive you win, I'm going to do a different piece of code. And again, I think the best thing here is to actually switch the backdrop. I'm just going to put these bits of code in. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure you guys can work out by now how to change or add a backdrop and then switch it to that appropriate backdrop depending on the scenario. And then I'm going to move on to number 10 because I've only got 5 minutes left. Number 10, this is a really interesting one, and I kind of touched at this at the start when I was talking about it. You've got the logic here, which is when the green flag is clicked, there's a new block that we haven't really used before called ask. It's under the sensing code blocks. So it allows us as the user to kind of give information to our game, which the game then stores and then can kind of give us back later on. And we can create kind of interesting conversations or interesting kind of interactions between ourselves and the game. This is, you could make it a very basic kind of chatbot. If you guys have ever used like the Google Home speakers, or you've ever been on a website where you've kind of spoken to someone that isn't a real person, it's just like a robot that's programmed to deal with certain types of questions. I do that quite a lot when I'm doing my online banking. I get this chat thing and I ask it a question. It doesn't understand what I'm asking, so I ask it a different question written in a different way and a different question, and eventually I get through to a real person when it doesn't understand what I want. We can build something like that in Scratch. We can just build up that interaction by asking the user for some information. In this case, what is your name? I'm going to put in, I'm not going to put in Rob, I'm going to put in John. It's a bit of a lie. It says, hello, John, maybe a bit too quick. Maybe we could increase that to 1 second, actually, because he didn't really. Where are you from? I'm from David or Scotland, whatever you prefer. Wow, David of Scotland, and then something else. So you can build up an interaction with the bear. The scenario I've got here is that whenever, forever, so as long as the game's playing, we're constantly looking for the answer Rob. And if you say Rob to the bear, that's it, it's over. You can stop all. In this scenario, you might want to again broadcast a message, change the backdrop, change the sprite characters depending on the answers. But you could build up here something fun for your parents. I'm thinking of you guys asking your parents, think of a quiz for your parents, and you can say the answers back to them using this operator join. It's a really clever operator that we've got here in Scratch, where you can join together two words, and in this case you can join together the answer and a different word and use the wait blocks. Again, we could probably take this to another level by introducing a loop. And if you guys,
just if you want to have a space, so like the answer's hello Rob, you just add after the hello, you just add a space, because I think when you run yours, it's hello and Rob they're joined together. So if you want a space in between, you just have to add a little space at the end of hello. In there.
Yeah, well spotted. Thank you. Because it joins them both together. It doesn't add in the space, so you need to kind of make sure that the space is added together in the word. Good call, Julie. So that's how you capture the bear. The apples is might take a little bit longer. We've only got a couple of minutes, so I'll maybe just give you kind of a brief overview of what you need to do there. This takes together a few of the things that I mentioned: the taco game with the player movement and the clones. That's really a good place to start here. But for Jerry, you need to build up the whole movement. So we need to do when the green flag is clicked, forever. If let's say sensing if key right is pressed, right arrow is pressed, and we're going to move him 10 steps, and then I'm going to duplicate this block, and I'm going to say if the left arrow is pressed, then we move negative 10 steps. So that's a quick way, and that'll get him to move left and right. Let's just double check that. You see there? Yeah, now we can move left or right. Not the quickest. We maybe need to move him a little bit faster than that, given the speed of the apples. Okay, moves a little bit quicker if we increase the steps. We need to add lives, you know, so we've done that a lot in the previous levels. So you do that through the variables. You can make a variable, we'll call it lives. And you'll see that in some of the games that I've made in the other challenges. You'll be able to kind of take the same type of code and redo that to get the lives. And then you change, so we set the lives at the start. I'm going to set them to 3 lives. I'm kind of out of time, but I'm just going to quickly run over this, guys, so that you know what to do when you come to making your own one. So we set the lives on the backdrop to 3, and then we can check if we go to change so that the apples constantly fall. They change y by -5, and we can also check if touching dinosaur 4, otherwise known as Jerry, then we can actually hide it, and we can then change our variable. So we can change lives by -1. So we take 1 life away every time he touches it. And we can develop that. You guys can develop that based on the previous lessons. The last one is the Cerberus. And there's loads that you can do with the Cerberus, actually. The Cerberus is very basic. It's just added in that kind of mouse movement. For the challenges, move the puppy around automatically. Well, there's several different ways that you can do that. Let's have a look at the puppy. I'm going to say when the green flag's clicked, control forever. We can actually just use the motion, and we can glide 2 seconds to a random position. And that's just a quick way of getting the puppy to move around. And you can see that there, every 2 seconds he's moving. And then here we've got the if touching donut, then switch costume to puppy sit. Then we actually need to switch his costume again afterwards, so that he looks like he's walking when we feed him the donut. But there's loads of stuff that you can do with that game, loads that you can develop it. And please, if you do, remember, sign in to save your game, share it with us, share it with the CodeInverness studio. We can give you feedback, and I'm happy to kind of help you guys if you get stuck on anything. I apologize for kind of going quite quickly through those last couple, but I just wanted to kind of thank you for completing the labors of Hercules. We've done the last 6 challenges. Please share your results with us. If you want to carry on learning, which I'm sure you do in programming, then there's the coolestprojects.org.uk that is available. I highly recommend it. It's a really interesting. There's loads of different tutorials on there. You can see what other guys are making. There's kind of practical challenges. It does Scratch, it does Raspberry Pi. So in the meantime, if you want to work on that, that's open until the end of June. I just want to say thank you for joining us these last few weeks. I've really enjoyed it. I don't know, Julie, I'll hand over to you for the final word.
Yeah, it's been an awesome 5 weeks. So thank you, Rob. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Just say, yeah. So just keep coding. If you create anything, please share it with us. I'm going to have a go at those challenges. So I'll be putting in my solutions. I'll maybe not have any French-speaking dinosaurs this time, but
oh no, we got to do the French-speaking dinosaurs. They were awesome.
And yeah, just keep an eye on all our social media, and we'll keep you updated about our plans going forward. So we will definitely be back in some form. We'll have a think about what's the best way to deliver lessons, but we will be back. So
absolutely, and you guys out there need to tell us what you've enjoyed, you know, so that when we come back in a way that gives you guys the best experience. So yeah, get in touch, like Julie says, Facebook, Twitter, and let us know what you've enjoyed and what you think we could improve.
And the advanced class, that's still going on. There's another session of that, so join Ron and Anya on Saturday at 2. So they're building up a RPG program. So yeah, it's worth checking out.
No, that sounds awesome. Well, thank you very much, Julie, and thank you everyone at home. And did we get any shout outs or anything before we go on the YouTube comments, just to say hello to anyone or goodbye to anyone?
Merci, Sonia. Oh, hello there.
Hello.
I think Fraser and David will be guests. So yeah, hello to you all, and we'll see you soon.
Great. Thanks very much. See you later, guys.